One of the biggest questions I always get asked is this: how do I get clients for my fractional work? Not likes, not followers, not vanity numbers, real clients. Welcome to the Fractional Practice Podcast. This show is for senior executives building a serious fractional or advisory practice. CFOs, CMOs, CROs, COs. We talk about how to build authority, create steady conversations, and turn them into paid work. In this episode, I'm joined by Nathanial Bibby from Bibby Consulting, a LinkedIn expert who has been helping businesses use LinkedIn properly for more than a decade. We unpack what actually works on LinkedIn today, what most executives are doing wrong, and how to move from online noise to real relationship and real revenue. If you have been wondering how to turn LinkedIn into a client engine, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Welcome, Nathaniel Bibby. Good to have you here.
Mate, it's a pleasure. Hey, is this episode 1? Did I make it onto episode 1?
No. This is not episode 1. This is a few episodes down the line.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Good to have you here, Nat.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Hey, it's been a while since we've done this.
I know, it's been such a long time. The last time we spoke like this, about, I think, 7 or 10 years ago on different platform, right? That was a long time ago. LinkedIn changed, things have been changed, but you've been around for LinkedIn for a while now. So you've been doing this. Sorry, before I get into it, give yourself, give a bit of introduction to people.
Okay, sure. Well, yeah, I'm a marketer. So I've been doing digital marketing for 20 years, very much sales focused. Content is, I guess I'm new at this. Jag's been doing it longer than I have. I mean, you were one of the guys that inspired me. It's good to see you back creating content again, because when I started to get into video, you were the guy that was doing it. I was like, Jag's doing this, in the car with you,
Yes.
So you're inspirational when I started doing content. It's a very different kind of ballgame. But now when people talk about marketing, they're pretty much talking about content. It's crazy. The world's changed completely. So now I run a LinkedIn marketing agency, been doing that for 11 years now. We generate leads for businesses, create content for them. It's a huge challenge at the moment. Like most businesses know they need to do it. They are doing it. Very few know whether or not it's working. That's where I come in, and I was the first agency outside of the US to specialize in LinkedIn. There's lots of smaller companies doing it now in Australia, but I think where I sit is in that corporate market where strategy is really important. It's not that scattergun approach that you're used to seeing all these DMs. Everyone gets them right in their inbox where it's just kind of mass marketing. That's not the approach I take. It's very, very much a relationship focused strategy that I use. And it seems to work better now than ever.
Would you say you are the number one in Australia?
Number one at what?
Number one marketing agency.
I'm the best looking one.
Yeah. Would you say number one marketing agency for LinkedIn, right? You're the number one LinkedIn expert.
Yeah, I'd have to say so with LinkedIn. I've seen what's out there. There's a lot of people doing it wrong. There's a wrong way to do it. There's a right way to do it. And this is all I do all day, every day. And it's not just like I'm doing it for my business. I'm doing this for all these different kinds of industries. I measure everything that works. A lot of the guys, even in the US, that are dominating the market over there, I trained to begin with.
Yeah, I would say that as well. Like, since I've known you, I feel that, you're definitely the number one here, at least in this part of the world.
I'm definitely the most modest.
So that's why, look, I wanted to have this conversation, right? Because most of our market is the senior execs doing fractional work, right? And I thought it would be a good idea to have this conversation where we kind of go deep into the LinkedIn world and kind of help this market, because I'll give you a bit of background, right? So most of the people in our space, they get clients or they kind of, through their network, where they worked in the past, they haven't started exploring LinkedIn yet. And I know it's probably strange for you that people are not using it. How come? But that's the way people are. And kind of it worked for them in the past. And I feel that now is the time for them to take the ownership. So I want to start from the beginning, right? If somebody is kind of now getting into this space and now they want to build brand is a big word, but they now want to get into this stuff. What would you say the number one thing they need to start with? Like, content is the king to begin with. They start having conversations, start DMing people, or they look into their profile first. So the profile optimization, where do they start?
Yeah. Well, I think, I look at it like relationship. I think it's not about posting. It's not about DMing. It's about relationships. So you're already out there. You're already networking. You already got this word of mouth marketing. Why don't we start by just amplifying that a bit more? So you might go to a business breakfast. You might meet 5 people. So that might take an hour out of your day. Why don't you spend 15 minutes on LinkedIn and meet 5 people there? Now, you'll realize very quickly it is important what your profile looks like. It doesn't have to be outstanding, but this is the place that people are going to land when you message them or when you post or even when they Google your name. So you want to, it's like people will spend $25,000 on a website, no questions asked, but their LinkedIn profile looks like a resume. Now, if you're trying to influence corporates, one of the most boring things you could give them is a version of your resume. Like, you don't meet somebody in a networking thing and go, here's my CV, So you got to speak to your customers in customer-centric language. It doesn't mean you have to put rocket ships in your headline or anything like that, but speak to who is your target market, who do you serve, what's the value you provide, and how can I trust you? So social proof, recommendations, things like that. I did a talk, it's a few years ago now, but I did a talk for Westpac, their youth network. So that's everyone at Westpac that's under the age of 30. And I said, put your hand up if you've got a recommendation on your LinkedIn profile. There was about 150 people there. And it was like 4 or 5 that had one recommendation on their profile. And I said, keep your hand up if you've got 2 recommendations, which is just a testimonial on your profile. Someone submits on your profile. And it was like 2 people. So it's like, how easy is it to stand out? All you need is 3 recommendations on your profile and you've got more than everyone else. Like, it doesn't take much. Most people are doing it wrong. Most people still haven't caught on. But I think with corporates, less is more as well, because a lot of people have now latched onto this idea of you've got to put all these keywords in there and you've got to cover every little nuance of what you do. I think you're much better off being very direct and specific, make it easy for people to comprehend. One of the things that I do on social media, which a lot of people don't do, is when I write anything, I'm always assuming that no one's going to read it. Like, I'm assuming no one's going to read it. Most people, when they write, they assume someone's going to read it, don't they? So they're like, they get 3 lines in and they're like, I forgot about this thing. I can't miss this thing. Your primary objective with the first line of your profile, the first line of your post, is to get people to read the second line.
So talk to me about that mindset that nobody's going to read it. How does that work?
Well, I'm not going to get these numbers entirely right, but the average amount of time somebody spends on LinkedIn is something like 20 seconds or something, and in that time, they look through about 7 posts. So you think about the amount of time they're spending on there and how much time you've got to capture their attention. Most people aren't going to read it. The ones that are going to stop and read are the ones that capture their attention. So if you have a big block of text, you're not going to get anyone reading it at all. It doesn't matter how well written it is. You've got to capture them with a hook at the start. That's the most important part of the post. In fact, you're writing 2 posts. With every post, it's the same with your profile. Even on your profile, you see 3 or sometimes 2 lines at the top, and then it says see more, right? So that's your first post. That post has got to be good enough for them to click see more. Most people aren't thinking about that, are they? They're just thinking about the one post that, people aren't going to see unless they click that see more button. Why are they going to click it?
Yeah, I think most people sort of start thinking about dumping the idea rather than constructing like a proper post where you just talked about, in one post having 2. One is the hook and then the rest of the post, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So here is what I sort of feel that, if somebody is, most people are busy and I kind of want to understand from your perspective, how does that, fit in? So if I have 30 minutes or, 30 minutes a day just to do LinkedIn, most people, I would say 30 minutes or 25 minutes they spend looking at other people's posts. Would you say that, how would you divide that? Would you want to sort of have posting content on LinkedIn or just having conversation started, having comments under somebody else's post? What would you say works the best these days?
Well, I think based on what you've told me about your audience, I mean, there's a lot of people on LinkedIn with less than 1,000 followers that get a lot out of it. And what they do is they're already out doing business, they're networking, but they're the guys that say at the end of the meeting, let's get a selfie together. Or they're like, I'm here doing this. But those people that are in their network, even if there's only like 300 of them, they all have an offline relationship with them as well. So the people that are seeing them, they already know who they are. The quality of that relationship is pretty good because it's offline as well. So it's just keeping top of mind with those people. And you've got to think of it like familiarity builds trust. So every time you get an exposure in front of someone, you're more familiar. So by posting regularly what you're doing, it doesn't interrupt your day. Doing what you're doing anyway. Most people don't do it because they're like, worried what they're going to look like or worried what other people think. But that's just a muscle. You just practice that. Just keep posting and posting, posting. You won't worry about it soon. Even don't worry about the views. Don't worry about it's not important. It's really not important. I know people that have got 350,000 followers that can't pay their rent because they don't actually have real relationships with these people. The guys that have got 2,000 followers that they actually have a real relationship with, they're making a lot of money from LinkedIn. So that's where the gold is. Now, you could spend a lot of time commenting. And yes, commenting does get more views on your profile and commenting does get more engagement and you are building these online relationships with people, right? But it's only good if you take that relationship offline. There's a lot of people that they spend 2 hours a day commenting, they get all these profile views, and then it just kind of fizzles out into these online friendships that don't ever go into an offline conversation and do any business. So I always look at it like, okay, so you're currently doing networking, word of mouth, you're having this many meetings, you're meeting this many new people. Let's just add to that. So when we go to those meetings, we're also going to do a post about it afterwards. And we're going to get an extra 3 meetings a week from LinkedIn. And all that means is I met with John, he's the CEO of XYZ accounting company. Let's go find another accounting company. Maybe it's in a different state, maybe not. So you just search for accounting, CEO, and then you message them and say, hey, I work with accounting companies. You're an accounting company. We should have a coffee. That's totally appropriate. That's what LinkedIn's for.
Yeah. So you reckon taking that online conversation offline?
Yeah.
Having those resulting in going and meeting people, catching up for coffees and in-person meetings. And that's where the goal is.
This is Tinder for business, Jag. It's like,
yes.
There's no point being on Tinder if you're just going to chat all day. Like, you're never going to find a partner, are you?
I think this is a really good point because most people, I think, stay online. They forget. Yeah. And I think the idea behind it is they're just going to get a business, somebody knocking on the door without meeting them in person, without going out and catching up for a coffee or without having any sort of, in-person kind of conversation.
Yeah. So even video's fine. I mean, a lot of global, but that's the thing. People have a different perception of you when you've done a one-on-one meeting rather than you're chatting on social media. And plus also with going back to Tinder, right? Right. If you want to build a relationship with somebody really fast, when you go on a date with them, you do multiple locations, right? Here's some strategies for all the single guys, right? So you might go for a little walk, then you have dinner, then you go to the bar, and then you've done like 4 or 5 things before the date's over. You build the relationship quicker. Fine. It's like LinkedIn, Zoom meeting, in coffee. Now I'm texting them. I've had a phone call. You build a relationship faster. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
It seems silly, right? But you think about it. We know each other on LinkedIn, Facebook, phone, video chat, in person. So I see you pop up everywhere, right?
Yeah. That's right. So I think that's the main thing, right? The people forget that. They feel that everything is just going to work in one conversation, one LinkedIn message, and everything is going to be, that's it, right? Somebody just going to give them some sort of business straight away. But forget that, the existing relationship took years to develop and, not even, I think people forget that. They start to treat LinkedIn completely differently, I would say. People act and behave very differently on LinkedIn compared to in real life. They won't do these sort of things in person
Correct.
with anybody, right? So
exactly.
They won't go out into a party and start saying, look at me, look at me, look at me. But they do that on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, that's what people assume, that they need to talk about themselves. It's not the case. It's just the same as, like you said, real life. I'd apply exactly what works in real life to social media. You want to create relationships. How do you do that? Conversations. So the goal is always not to make a sale. It's to start a conversation. That's what people get wrong. You look at all the DMs, people doing lead generation. It's like, buy my stuff, give me your email for the thing. Like, no one's just messaging you and going, hey, Jag, how's your morning going? Like, no one's starting a conversation.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. People kind of forget that. But do you think that people kind of have a different reaction to this as well? Like if somebody messaged me saying, hey, how's your day been? And I'm like, who are you? Like, do you reckon it's that is completely different as well?
Yeah. Well, it depends who they are, right? Because that is the question. If you've got a great profile, that's the question you want people to be asking. So if you have a great profile and it's contextually relevant, I mean, you may have to point out, like I wouldn't send somebody a message. Well, I would actually. I would send a message saying, how are you? If I'm confident that they would respond, if they know the same people I do. But normally when we're doing campaigns for clients, there'll be some context and relevance that is in that message as well. We've got mutual connections. So who are they? Like, first of all, if they're friends with one or connected to one of our clients, that's a great way to, get an introduction. I'll give you an example. Okay, I've got a real estate investment company in Sydney that I said, who do you target? And they said, well, look, we target high income earners. They are ideally partners at big consultancy firms, right? Now, one of the things, it's hard to get in with these partners at consultancy firms, right? But once you get in with one, then you get in with another. Before you know it, you could be getting in with hundreds of them. And that's exactly what happened. Eventually, as soon as we got the first client on board, it took 6 months before there was about 30 clients in that one organization, all earning well over $500,000 each for property investment, because you could reach out to them and say, hey, we're already doing business with all your colleagues. Why don't we have a chat and see what your goals are?
Yeah, I think that works really well because once you have that one connection, it's really easy to sort of, rather than
you think about who you know already, like who are your existing clients? Are you connected with them? Okay, you've got visibility over their referral network now. You don't have to ask them to introduce someone to you. You can look and see who they're connected with, and then you can reach out. You don't even have to ask them to introduce you. You can reach out and say, hey, he's a great guy. I'd love to find out more about what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So talk to me about the mistakes. Like, you probably have seen a lot of people make silly mistakes. What have you seen, like your top 3 mistakes people make when they are on the platform?
I think, well, it's obviously like not doing your profile properly. You should get a professional to copyright it. Like we do profile optimization. This is an insert plug for my service here, but it's talking about themselves. It's not showing curiosity or interest in the other person. This, when you don't know somebody, if you're going to approach them, they're not interested in you. Like they don't know you. So the one thing that you can be sure that they are interested in is themselves. So you have to show interest in what they're doing. And you can't assume that everyone has a need for your service. You have to find out if they've got the problem that you solve, right? So with these fractional guys, what would generally be the problem that you solve?
It depends which area. If we are CFOs, like for example, for me, revenue is the biggest one. So revenue and pipeline development and managing the existing teams.
Yeah. And do they generally have a CFO in place?
No. If we're talking about CFO, they not all the time. So they have an accountant in place, but probably either never had a CFO or they probably had a CFO in the past or, which probably didn't work out and they can't hire a full-time CFO.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Great. So, I mean, this is one of the perfect things that you could, ask people up front, whether you do it on the call or on LinkedIn, is, who's looking after the finances for the business, the revenue for the business. And then they'll tell you all the stuff. You'd be amazed what people tell you when you ask an opening question like that. They'll go exactly what you just said. We had this accountant, then we got this, and then, okay, what's the biggest challenge that you're having right now? Okay, would you like to know more about how I could help you with that? You get permission to share about your solution. You don't start selling before you've got the problem and you've got permission to share your solution. That's my 2 rules.
That's good. These are good rules.
But yeah, like you spend a lot of time on content. I think it's got to fit in with your daily routine, because the last thing you want to do is sit in front of the computer for an hour and a half in the morning writing a post. That's a
I
waste of
think,
time.
that's the main thing, right? If people don't have much time, what is the one or two things you recommend people to do? So if I'm really busy and I don't have much time, but I still want to utilize LinkedIn, if I only have, say, 30 minutes in a week,
Yep.
where do you think I should focus that 30 minutes?
I would, so the people's experience on LinkedIn comes down to the quality of their network. So if you say to me, oh, it's all salespeople and recruiters on LinkedIn, that just means that that's who's in your network. And normally that means you've been reactive. So you get on LinkedIn, you get all these invitations to connect, and you're just pressing accept, or whatever. You're not the one sending invitations out. Very few people do this. Like even big influencers, even successful CEOs, they're not actually the ones going, okay, I want directors of mining companies in Sydney, and then sending them the invitations. And all of a sudden your network has all the right people in it. So that's the first thing. You can send up to 100 a week. I would take advantage of that, because you used to be able to send 500 a week easy, right? And so you could grow your network really fast. So in a year or two, it'll probably be 20 that you can send a week, because it doesn't make any sense that it's all free. So you send the invitations to connect. Then when they accept the invitation, psychologically, it's like they've given you consent that you can reach out to them. They're in your network now. You've invited them. They've accepted. So thank them for that, and treat your network like it's an asset to your business. If you've got an email database, 30% of those emails on average will change every year. So it's always going down unless you're growing it. On LinkedIn, that doesn't happen. People change their email address. They still got a LinkedIn account. So that's an asset to your business and to your career. If you can sell your business, you still got your LinkedIn. It's an asset for your career. So make sure you got the right people in it. And then as they connect, why don't you just take the relationship a bit further and say, oh, it's great to connect. I actually like to get to know each of my connections. Do you have 15 minutes spare over the next week for a quick call, intro call, get to know each other a little bit? You'd be amazed, like the kind of relationships that you build through that. What will happen is 95% of the people you connect with, they're not really ready to do business now, right? And so most people, when they're selling on LinkedIn, they focus on the 5%. They're like trying to sell to the 5%. The key to it is you want to build relationships with the 95%, because what's going to happen is over time, they're going to drop into the 5%, and they're not going to speak to anyone else because you're their guy. They already know who you are. They already trust you. That's the time you want to get them.
Yeah, that's what we want to talk about, right? So let's sort of go deeper in this. 90, sort of a strategy to build a relationship with this 95%. What do you recommend? How do we start? Like, for example, you just mentioned that, hey, when somebody connect, you send them a DM, saying, hey, do you want to catch up on a Zoom call or something? Is that how you recommend it to build that relationship?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to get to know them and to have a conversation. But, I mean, and then you're just posting content. But the key to the content game at the moment is to make it as human as possible. So, 65% of people are using AI to write their content, and most of it's whatever they can find that stuff on Google. If I wanted to find out information, I would go to Google. I don't. I want to go to LinkedIn because I want to get to know people. And so you have to make it personal, talk about your own experience. And I think that you could do it with photographs and stuff, but video is the easiest way to be human. And that's the goal. The algorithm is looking for human-centric posts. Video is going to be the most important thing moving forward. And I think you need to practice it. So if you commit to doing like 20 hours of video content and get it online somewhere over the next year, that's a really good foundation. Like if I said to you, I'm going to tomorrow for 24 hours, all I'm going to do is sit down and watch stuff about Jag. Is there enough stuff online for me to fill that 24 hours? Because if there's not enough podcasts and YouTube videos and LinkedIn posts, then you need to be publishing more so people can do that deep dive. And that means creating long form content. So that you're not going to post long form content on LinkedIn unless it's an event, but you cut it up into clips, because that way you're creating 30 videos in one sitting. That's the way you have to do it. And it'll be pretty rubbish at the start, but you'll get better and you'll get so good at it that, years time, these stories will roll off the tongue and you'll be in a league of your own, because only 1% of people are doing it. 1% of LinkedIn members actually do video content.
That's it's a big opportunity. Look, video's been, I believe that as well, because if you look at the posts, any content written by somebody, mostly written by AI, and video probably the only way now you can actually have real human connection and real human conversations, right? You can write it. But I've heard this recently that YouTube start to penalize those people who created YouTube channels based on 100% AI, right? They just had AI kind of doing the videos, AI writing the scripts, AI kind of people who are doing it, right? So I think...
so everyone's like, oh, AI is such a big deal. I need to go learn it and implement it and offer it. But the premium is going to be in the human stuff. You think about it, right? Will you pay more for a robot to come and fix your window or for a human to do it? You pay more for the human. When you go to the movies, if it's directed and acted and everything else by robots, it's not as valuable as if a human did it. Right? I think the premium is being more human. And if you're a small business, if you're a fractional business owner, your advantage over the big companies is that you can afford to show more humanity, and your personal brand is the advantage. You have to do it. Personal branding is absolutely crucial if you're a small business operator to get ahead of the curve, because the content from AI is great. It's fantastic. Like, I'm not saying it's bad information, but what's going to differentiate you from everyone else?
Yeah, I reckon it's experience matters the most going forward, because people want to have more experience of you being either the way you just mentioned, that creating a long form of content. They want to listen from real people. They want to talk to real people, because there's just too much AI or robotic things are happening. And I think human to human connection is the one which matters the most now.
Yeah, you look at the elections in the US. You can't even win an election unless you go on podcasts.
True. Like, it's just a given. So I think this is, like, I would have thought 10 years ago that these things, what we're doing, the podcast and everything else, the video content, it's going to be kind of start to disappear. People are going to move on to doing something else. But I'm kind of coming back into this world again, and it's still there and still doing so much. I reckon the video is the way to go going forward for individuals.
Yeah. You don't know how many people are watching it. Like, when I consumed your content for the first time, Jag, I was probably watched at least 3 hours of it in like one sitting.
Yeah. I was looking at the other day for my old content. I've got so much content that, and people watched it on Vimeo, because that's how my programs kind of ran in the past.
All right. Okay.
I've got 180 days watched hours on that. 180 days.
Wow.
And that's a lot of content. People watched it. This is what I'm talking about, watched hours. People watched 180 days worth of content.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you've developed the muscle. Like, you're great at it now. You've got so much experience. So
that was good. I'm sort of disappeared for 3-4 years on this world, but it's hard to come back, to be honest.
You're a great interviewer as well.
Not that easy.
You're a great interviewer. I think this podcast will do really well.
Oh, thank you. I want to move to now talk about sort of strategy for the LinkedIn algorithm. I know a lot of people sort of talk about the algorithm, right? Algorithm is a big word on social media these days. It's always been. And I think what people are saying is that social media is now kind of changing to media rather than social anymore. So, I mean, it's not social anymore. What's your thoughts on LinkedIn? Where does this platform going? Where does it go?
Yeah. So when people say that it's not social anymore, what they're saying is, when you used to join a social platform like Facebook, you'd post something and your friends would see it, right? That's not how it works anymore. If your friends watch Jag all the time, they're not seeing your stuff, they're seeing Jag. It doesn't matter if you're connected or not. So that's really what it comes down to is what people are actually consuming. And the algorithm knows that by how much time you spend looking at a post, right? Or looking at somebody's profile. That's how they know. Best creators on LinkedIn are getting people to spend 20 minutes on their posts sometimes. How do they do that? Well, they do that by having conversations in the comments and stuff like that, but it makes a huge difference. And then the algorithm is been revamped. At the end of last year, they used AI. Of course, it's bound to happen, right? So the AI is learning. A third of the whole algorithm is constantly learning and adapting. So it's always changing. But one thing that's unique about LinkedIn, well, Yeah, it's unique for LinkedIn. It's a little bit like a cross between Facebook, Instagram, and Google, because what it's looking for is authority. So it's like not just thinking about what your content says in your posts. It's who's writing the content. What does your profile say? And then what are the people that are actually viewing the content? What do they do? So it's looking at the context behind all that. So the most important thing right now is to be consistent. You can't expect to get anywhere with the algorithm if you're talking about parenting today and then tomorrow you're talking about how to grow a business, and then the next day you're talking about something completely different. You kind of need to be consistent so the algorithm knows what you're talking about, and then on your profile it needs to be very clear as well. Because if I speak to B2B founders about how to market their business on LinkedIn, as soon as I put the post up, they go like, that guy's an expert. People who are B2B founders follow that stuff. I'm going to push that post.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. People kind of being consistent and talking about the same topic matters the most. And I think that's probably the reason you are pretty good at what you do, right? That the only thing you've been talking about on LinkedIn is about LinkedIn from last, I don't know, God knows, 11, 12 years now.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I show a lot of personal anecdotes. Like that's really what separates me. I think I'm not doing a lot of numbers. Like when you compare me to some of the influencers that I chat to all the time, their numbers are higher than me. Quite often, their revenue is not, right? Because it's about the quality of the relationships. The people that are viewing my stuff are the people that I'm meeting with next week. They're the people that are reviewing proposals. If I do a sales meeting with a company that's looking at spending maybe $50,000-$60,000 with me, I'm like, and I say, are you ready to sign the contract? They say, oh no, we need to think about it. I say, okay, well, on Monday, I'm going live. We're actually talking about storytelling. Why don't you come along? It'll be great. So they come along to the live stream that I have on Monday. I may only have 20 people there. Doesn't matter. They're there. So then, what happens? Tuesday, they sign up because they've just been through me educating, in public, and that builds credibility and builds trust. You build trust, you move people through the sales funnel. Everyone thinks about how to get people into the sales funnel. What about moving people down the sales funnel? If it influences somebody that's reviewing a proposal and gets them to buy, that's just as valuable as getting 5 new people in your sales funnel.
Yeah, I think let's talk about this a bit, more. You run a Monday night live, right?
Yeah.
Which is your about 30, 40 minute or 1 hour live,
about 1 hour.
LinkedIn live, right?
Yeah.
And the only reason for that, I feel that, is to build trust, right? That's what it is, right? This is how you build trust, would you say?
Yeah. I mean, I think about it like, I know my shit. Sorry, I don't know. Shouldn't be swearing. That's a naughty word. Adult word.
Yeah.
But I know my stuff. So how do I show people that? Well, I just teach them. Monday Night Live, they get all the best, the latest information before I even put it into a training course or anything. And it's always different every week. So it keeps me on top of my game. It's on a Monday, so I get my content done, because it's difficult otherwise to stay disciplined. That actually goes and creates 30, 20 clips for me. So that's my short form videos done. And I think that, building trust is what it does, but it moves people at every stage of the sales funnel, whether they're awareness, whether considering, whether they've already a client. And I think that if it didn't do that, then it probably wouldn't be worth it. But that makes it worth it, because if you can influence people at every stage of the customer journey, it's just moving people through the pipeline, one to many.
Yeah.
Do
you ever feel that if I do Monday Night Live, this is what I feel most people kind of have or concerned about, that doing either live videos or putting coming up and putting content, that what if nobody shows up? Have you had that sort of thought?
Yeah. So you have to build an audience. So the way to do that is, the easiest way, what I would suggest doing if you're going to do this start live, if I was starting from scratch, I would interview people. I would have people as guests on my show, but I wouldn't be able to get the big guests, right? So what I'd do is I'd find out who interviews the big guests. So like when I started LinkedIn Heroes, remember LinkedIn Heroes? That
I do, yes.
The video first interview
That's
series
right.
I did. So I interviewed the guy that ran Startup Grind, because he interviews all the founders. And I interviewed the guy that does the Mentor List podcast, because he interviews all the big guys. And then I did an event company. And most of these guys, they don't get asked to do interviews very often. They always interview other people. So they love it. They came on, I give them a professional experience. And then when Dr. John D. Martini was coming to town, I messaged them all and said, hey, can anyone get me an interview with Dr. John Demartini? One of them said yes. And that's how I started to get the bigger guests. That's the fastest way to grow an audience, is you're hacking other people's followers and audience. So you just have to think about, it's not just me, it's we, and that's the quickest way to do it. But now that I have an audience, the numbers are higher when it's just me. Isn't that interesting? Like, even if I have a big guest on, because that's what people are there for, is they want to, they're expecting to hear from me about LinkedIn strategies. If I bring a guest on, normally it's about another topic that's relatable, it's relevant, but it's like adjacent to LinkedIn.
Yeah. So, well, if I have to ask you this question, what are you good at? Like, how would you answer that? What are you good at? Like, I know LinkedIn, which is a big word, but why do I come to you if I'm sort of listening to this?
I think there's a couple of things. Like, I mean, obviously I've got loads of experience, which means I can apply the right strategy to, but what I'm uniquely good at, which I don't see many people do, is just putting myself in the shoes of the customer. So when I'm writing a profile, when I'm inviting somebody to an event, when I'm asking for a meeting, I'm always in the head of the customer, and sitting down and thinking about that actually takes a lot of brain power. It takes a lot of concentration for me to put myself in those shoes. But that's what I'm doing all the time. And I think it comes down to just having empathy for the consumer. And, you have to care about the business that you're working with, the clients you're working with, in order to do that. To sit down and go, okay, if this was my business, how would I market it? And then have the confidence to push for that with the client and tell them, no, we're not going to do it this way. We're going to do it this way because I know what I'm doing. And that's what you've hired me for. You haven't hired me to send the messages or do the thing. You've hired me for my expertise. That's where the value is. So we're going to do. But listen, it's not going to happen overnight. We're going to try some things. We may have to change our approach. But if you get the process right, you can scale up to the moon and back, just like the guys I was talking about in Sydney. And, so with the fractional guys, I mean, you don't need a lot of clients. You need the right clients.
True. In our world, we don't need, I think usually people manage about 7, 8, 12 portfolios. That's it, unless they run a full-fledged practice where they have other executive or operators work with them. Yeah. But mostly if they are working as an operator, I think we kind of have the limit that we just can't have more than 4 or 5 clients.
Yeah. So look, let's say I was a CMO, fractional CMO, right? I would have my 10 companies I want to work for. That's what I would do. I'd have 10, and I wouldn't work with anyone. I wouldn't work with anyone that wasn't up to that standard. I wouldn't say yes to companies that were like, I want the 10, right? So first of all, I find out who all the decision makers are. I connect with them all on LinkedIn, and I just slowly start building relationships with all of them. If you only have 10 and you're watching everything they do on LinkedIn, you can build relationships with them. It might not happen overnight, but in a year's time, they'll all know who you are. Like, it's not that difficult.
Yeah. I think the market is, if I talk about fractional, we don't need big market. We don't need big numbers.
You don't.
It's just very small. Nobody needs to build a big audience. We just need 4, 5, or 10 clients, or at least 10 businesses in the network. And you ended up working for 4 or 5 of them. And at some of them, you might just do advisory work where you don't work as an operator. You just work as an advisor, which kind of takes less of your time. But we don't need that many customers. It's not like, it's not a small thing.
Yeah. I mean, the best social media site would be like you and your 10 dream customers, right? Because they don't see anything else. You don't see anything else. So that's where you got to think about it, is just forget about all the noise and all of the numbers that people talk about all the time. Because to be honest, like, they're chasing the wrong thing. Like if you're getting lots of follows, it means that you're not that specific. You're relevant to more people. So if you want clients, you've got to be more specific.
Yeah, that's a good advice. That's very good. Where do you see LinkedIn going in the next 12 to 24 months?
I think it's just video. Like, I think, they've indicated that this is the area they're focusing on. So TikTok and Instagram, they all have these feeds where you can scroll on a mobile device. Now, on LinkedIn, they say 85% of people use a mobile. But that's overall, right? You got to remember, some people are updating their profile. Some people are running ads. Some people are, if you're consuming content, if you're reading, like if you're looking at content, most of the time they're on the phone. It's like it would be 97% or something. So having a video feed where you can scroll through videos is just a no-brainer. I think that's where it's heading. So I think vertical videos, you got to post twice a week. I think when it gets introduced, you'll be able to get millions of views for about 6 months until everyone else catches on. And they don't need to be professional quality. You just need to be consistent. LinkedIn are looking for 3 things. They're looking for, are you posting at least twice a week? Is it vertical? And does it have captions? Right?
Oh, yeah, captions is a good one. Is it? What do you say? Captions embedded into the video, or
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
because no one's like, it's more than half of people do not have the sound on.
True, agree.
And people say, oh, you can press the subtitle button. I don't know what the statistic is, but I would estimate maybe 3% of people would bother doing that.
Yeah,
People
it has to come up. Yeah, true. Nat, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I certainly made lots of notes. I've got the list here. I just want to walk through what are the things we kind of talked about, right? Some of the sort of word just came up. Number one thing sort of came up while we were having this conversation is adding value, right? Having that value word was just stood out. The other one was the relationship. Don't use LinkedIn as just a social media platform. Build relationships on this platform. The third one you talked about was quite a good is authority. So this is how you show your authority. This is a platform where you could build your authority without even doing much, just talking about what do you do the best, right? And then you talked about video, which is number one thing right now to build the trust and credibility in the market. Right? And the last one is sort of just recently talked about is care. You have to care. You have to have that empathy about your target market. You have to understand your market really well and think from their perspective. The overall for me has been a pretty good conversation. I really liked, you said, having that talk about one thing. I mean, one thing means just don't go everywhere. And the way the algorithm works is focuses on the one thing so that your content can be shown to the other people or relevant people in that space. But it's been a pleasure talking to you. As always, thank you for coming and sharing your wisdom. This is going to be really useful for other people. But yeah, I appreciate it.
No, my pleasure, mate. Good to be here.
Thank you.